When Disney bought Star Wars, we thought we were getting a second golden age. New stories, bold ideas, maybe even a chance to expand the galaxy beyond Skywalkers and sand planets. Instead, it feels like they handed us a shiny gift box, and when we opened it, half the pieces were missing, and the instructions were written in crayon. You can almost hear the boardroom pitch, what if we just do the Death Star again, but bigger? The sequels were supposed to be the crown jewel, the continuation of a myth that defined generations. What we got instead was a trilogy that argued with itself harder than siblings fighting over the TV remote. J.J. Abrams teased mysteries, Rian Johnson threw them in the trash, and then Abrams came back like a frantic parent taping the pieces back together. It is less a saga, and more like 3 group projects turned in without anyone comparing notes. And then the shows started rolling in, some amazing, some forgettable, all of them feeling like homework assignments instead of epic storytelling. The Book of Boba Fett turned a feared bounty hunter into the galaxy's friendliest landlord. Obi-Wan Kenobi teased a story that could have shattered us emotionally, but instead we got endless alleyway chases that looked like deleted scenes from a bad cop show. Even the cameos started to feel like fan service coupons: buy 1 lightsaber duel, get 1 legacy character free. The thing is, Star Wars was never just about quantity. It was about myth, about weight, about stories that made you feel like you were watching something that mattered. Now it feels like the galaxy is being run through a conveyor belt where the only goal is to keep the machine moving. We are drowning in content, but starving for meaning. And that disconnect makes every new announcement feel less exciting and more exhausting. And here is the painful part. Fans keep showing up because deep down we hope for that spark again. We sit through retcons, recycled plots, and questionable choices because somewhere in there, we still believe Star Wars can be special. The love is still there, the emotion is still raw, but the betrayal cuts deeper every time Disney trades storytelling for corporate safety nets. It is like watching your favourite band reunite, only to play jingles for cereal commercials. In this video, we are going to break down exactly how Disney has drained the magic out of Star Wars. From the sequels that rewrote legacy characters for shock value, to the conveyor belt of shows that feel more like content than cinema, to the way beloved heroes have been sidelined while boardrooms chase trends. We are going to dig into why this galaxy feels hollow, why fans like me are done pretending it is fine, and why Star Wars deserves better than the treatment it is getting right now. When Disney first bought Star Wars, the curiosity was overwhelming. What would they do with it? How would they honour the saga? And could they possibly give us a new golden age? Fans imagined bold storytelling, daring ideas, and the kind of care that would make George Lucas proud. Instead, what we got has left many of us scratching our heads and wondering if the galaxy we loved is slowly slipping away. The sequels were the first big test. The Force Awakens brought hope, but it leaned hard on nostalgia. We got another desert scavenger, another masked villain, another planet-killing superweapon. It looked and felt like Star Wars, but underneath you had to ask if this was creativity or just imitation. The curiosity lingered, because if this was the foundation, where was it going to lead? Then came The Last Jedi, which pushed things in bold directions but split the fandom like a lightsaber through butter. Some praised its subversions, others hated its character choices. And suddenly you had to ask, is Disney actually steering this ship with a plan, or just throwing darts at a board and calling it storytelling? The curiosity turned uneasy, because the future felt less certain and more chaotic. By the time The Rise of Skywalker rolled around, the puzzle pieces no longer fit. It looked expensive, it looked dramatic, but it also looked like 3 different movies stapled together. Questions that were teased were ignored, answers were retconned, and curiosity turned into suspicion. Was Disney making stories or just products? That curiosity is what keeps fans coming back. Because we want to know, can Disney turn this around, or are they proving in real time that Star Wars under corporate rule was doomed from the start? And here is where the frustration explodes. Because instead of a carefully built saga, Disney's Star Wars often feels like a corporate brainstorming session where every idea gets greenlit as long as it sells merchandise. It is the kind of frustration that makes you groan out loud when you realize the magic is being replaced with algorithms. The sequels are frustrating because they had no unified vision. J.J. Abrams sets up mystery boxes in The Force Awakens. Rian Johnson tosses most of them aside in The Last Jedi, and Abrams comes back in The Rise of Skywalker with duct tape and fan service. The end result is a trilogy that argues with itself, leaving fans stranded in the middle. That is not mythology. That is chaos disguised as cinema. Even the Disney Plus shows carry frustration. Some are good, but many feel stretched thin. The Book of Boba Fett turned a legendary bounty hunter into a soft-spoken landlord who gets upstaged by Mando in his own series. Obi-Wan Kenobi teased an epic story, but spent half its runtime on filler chases through alleys. And the less said about certain cameos that exist only to trend on Twitter, the better. It is not just movies or shows, it is childhoods, memories, and legacies passed from one generation to another. Watching it stumble under Disney feels less like bad entertainment and more like losing something precious. There is sorrow in Luke Skywalker's arc being rewritten. Fans who waited decades to see him again were given a bitter recluse who abandoned everything he once stood for. That character deserved better, and so did the people who grew up inspired by him. It was not just disappointing, it was heartbreaking. The sequels also bring sorrow in how they treated Finn. Introduced as a stormtrooper with limitless potential, he was sidelined into comic relief and given no meaningful resolution. It is a waste of a groundbreaking character, and it leaves fans mourning the story that could have been told. Even legacy characters like Han and Leia carry sorrow. Han reduced to an older version of his smuggler self, Leia carrying burdens alone, both stripped of the hopeful ending they once earned. The galaxy they fought for collapses into the New Republic's failure, and their sacrifices feel diminished. That is not just sad, it is tragic. The sorrow comes from realizing Star Wars no longer feels like it is building towards something greater. Instead, it feels like it is undoing its own magic, leaving fans to grieve what was once a mythic, cohesive saga. And yet, despite the missteps, the Star Wars under Disney still delivers awe. Because no matter how flawed the storytelling, there are moments that remind us why we fell in love with this galaxy in the first place. That awe is what keeps us watching, even when we are frustrated. Visually, the sequels are stunning. The lightsaber fight in the snowy forest of The Force Awakens, the Crimson Throne Room battle in The Last Jedi, and the salt plains of Crate turning red under fire. These are images that burn into memory, even if the stories around them falter. Star Wars still knows how to look like cinema. The Disney Plus shows also bring awe when they hit their stride. The hallway fight with Darth Vader and Obi-Wan Kenobi, the prison escape in Andor, or the emotional reunion of Grogu and Din in The Mandalorian. These moments prove the galaxy still has power, still has the ability to inspire chills. Even the return of John Williams' music carries awe. The themes swell, the horns blast, and suddenly you feel transported again. The sound of Star Wars remains untouchable, even when the stories wobble. That alone shows the power of myth still lingers. The awe of Disney Star Wars is a reminder of potential, that when it gets things right, it can still deliver cinematic wonder. The problem is that those moments are too few, buried under too much noise. Hope is what keeps the fandom alive, even when the films let us down. Hope exists in projects like Andor, which stripped away nostalgia and showed the galaxy from the perspective of ordinary people. It proved that Star Wars could still surprise us with grounded storytelling that felt fresh and vital. That spark of originality is exactly what fans crave. The Clone Wars and Rebels also provide hope. Animated series that expanded the lore, deepened characters, and gave us some of the best arcs in the entire franchise. These stories show that Star Wars does not need to be trapped in mistakes. It can evolve into something richer. Even the fandom itself is a source of hope. Fan edits, fan films, and passionate discussions prove that people care too much to let the saga fade. The galaxy belongs to the fans as much as to any corporation, and that collective passion ensures Star Wars will never truly die. Hope lingers because the Force is bigger than Disney's choices. The myth, the characters, and the spirit of Star Wars still resonate, and that means there is always a chance for redemption. But the resolution, at least for now, feels tragic, because Disney had the chance to shepherd Star Wars into a bold new era, and instead they turned it into content. The sequels divided fans, the shows are uneven, and the sense of myth has been replaced by algorithms and schedules. That is not legacy, that is management. The tragedy is that the soul of Star Wars has been diluted. Characters reduced to brand icons, stories rewritten for convenience, and moments designed more for trailers than for lasting impact. It is a saga that once felt alive, now dragged along by corporate machinery. And yet, the resolution is also a warning. Star Wars proves that even the most beloved franchise can falter when vision is replaced with profit. It reminds us that myth cannot be mass-produced. It has to be nurtured. Without that care, even the brightest saga can dim. The legacy of Disney Star Wars is not finished, but its current trajectory feels hollow, and unless it reclaims its heart, it risks being remembered not as a rebirth, but as a cautionary tale of squandered potential. So yes, Disney is ruining my precious Star Wars. And I'm done pretending otherwise, because the first step towards saving something you love is admitting when it
Thank
has
you for
already
watching.
been broken.
Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that share button. My main channel is Critical Analysis Hub, where I post Star Wars content about the movies. My secondary channel is Critical Analysis Hub Plus, where I focus on the shows of Star Wars. And my third channel is Critical Analysis Hub XP, where I post comic books. Be sure to take a moment and check them out. Thanks, and may the Force be with you.